Can you beat Super Mario 64 if 126,000 Goombas stand between Mario and Bowser? Every map, every room, every boss fight. It's going to be a bit absurd, so I hope you enjoy. And hey, if you do enjoy absurd challenges in your favorite Nintendo games, why not subscribe right now? I have a lot of really awesome videos in the works, and it helps me out a ton as a creator. You can always unsubscribe later if you lose interest. Okay, so about a month ago I asked you guys if you want to see me tackle the entire game overrun with Goombas, and the overwhelming response was yes, please suffer for our entertainment. So, here we are. Every single area in the game has been treated to a Goomba makeover. Regardless of the map, that means there are Goombas there. Even Princess Peach's castle is a hot mess. But before we start our crazy adventure, let's talk about some things. First, Goombas in Super Mario 64 normally have collision on them. This makes it so they push other Goombas and can't overlap as objects. This doesn't exist anymore. If this were in play, Goombas wouldn't be able to swarm Mario in droves. And where's the fun in that? The technical explanation is that this allows the game to handle more Goombas, since collision doesn't have to be accounted for. Goombas still are affected by the collision of the level, just not by each other. Second, determining the spawn for Goombas is basically governed by this logic. The dimensions of the map are used to determine the spawn range, and within that range, Goombas are spawned at random coordinates. However, to keep Goombas from mass spawning on the death barrier, the highest floor is referenced so that all spawns take place there. That doesn't mean we don't have Goombas spawning out in the void, but this makes it so they are priority spawned in playable areas. So if you have two more areas that overlap but are at different heights, the Goombas are going to load in at the higher height. We'll cover the rest on our Goomba smashing adventure, Mario. Take this letter from Peach and get on your merry way. So the entrance of the game is definitely interesting when the land is littered with Goombas. They don't load in until we get near Mario, but he's surely in for a surprise once he exits that pipe. The biggest advantage that Mario has on this adventure is his slide kick. It's a Goomba destroying machine. But not even the slide kick will prepare him for the inside of Princess Peach's castle. It's Rave Night, and nobody told Mario. As we open this pit up, it's probably a good time to talk about the horrors of massive crowds of Goombas. You never want to jump or leave the ground if at all possible. If you recover out of a slide onto a Goomba's head, you're not touching the ground for a minute or two. The sheer amount of Goombas will keep you airborne as you defeat them. If you get knocked backwards, you'll also crowd surf. It's a true rave experience. They'll even try to steal your wallet. Eventually, we make our way into Bob-omb Battlefield, but I make the mistake of jumping and taking damage at the same time. So Mario bounces around the room for a while, like the ball in a game of Pong. And it's terrible. 5 minutes later, we clean off the Goomba blood and finally make it into the painting. Now, in giant areas like Bob-omb Battlefield, the Goomba density is spread out and it's not too terrible. We make our way up to the Chain Chomp and ungracefully collect our first star of the run. Yeah, my aim was pretty bad, but upon getting the star, it's important to jump at the right time to get back in. Otherwise, you'll be fed to the Goomba gods again. Now we have our sights on King Bob-omb, so we make our way up the mountain with the grace of someone playing Super Mario 64 for the first time. I don't necessarily mean that as a way to measure my skill. I mean, everything feels new because there's so many Goombas that will make you slip up. From either extending your jumps to knocking you backwards. The mountain becomes a lot harder when you can't rely on your normal movement patterns. Also, warping crashes the game, so we can't do that. We eventually make our way up to King Bob-omb and knock him out, obtaining our second star and moving on to Koopa the Quick. Now at first, Koopa seemed like it was going to be a nightmare, but it ended up not being so bad. Long jumping off of Goombas allowed for some pretty big gains in the race, but we do have to climb up this mountain the old-fashioned way, since attempting skips of any kind typically causes us to get knocked backwards by Goombas. I guess we could have cleared the areas first before starting the race, but Koopa the Quick is so clearable without doing that. We snag our third star, jump into a cannon to reach the star for Shoot to the Island in the Sky, and press on for a largely normal, although delayed collection of 8 red coins. In total, we snag 5 stars on the mountain. We aren't going to be doing any 100 coin stars at all in this run to potentially add to the difficulty a bit. Honestly, you could get the 100 coin star without even leaving the start of the level. We press on to Whomp's Fortress though after swimming through some Goomba soup. Whomp's Fortress actually gave me a lot less trouble than I thought it would. Making it up to the Whomp King wasn't terrible. I did take the shortcut to skip around half the level though. The fight against the Whomp King was pretty standard. Ground pound to face through him and hope the Goombas don't cause you to die. After collecting the star, I made my way back up top for To the Top of the Fortress. This large tower loads in as an object though, so the Goombas don't spawn on it. Every other star is pretty standard. Shoot to the Wild Blue can be obtained with a flip wall kick combo. And, well, actually I just got carried off, hold on for a second. As I was saying, the other stars are the same. The only one with increased difficulty is the red coin star, because you're getting rushed by Goombas the whole time. A lot of the time saves you can normally do are faltered because Goombas interrupt you. We can still nab the red coin star, fall into the caged island, and blast away the wall pretty quickly though, bringing our total star count to 11. Now we're going to unlock the wing cap for the heck of it. Trying to access the wing cap area in this lobby is a pain because you keep getting hit over and over again. If we use our invincibility frames though, we can ruin Mario's eyes for the rest of his life and access the level. I goofed up on the red coins, so I decided to just nab the cap and peace out. If for some reason we need the stars, I can come back. But that and Bob-omb Battlefield's last star is surely obtainable. So by far, one of the most difficult challenges in this run is making up the dang staircase in the lobby. If you don't know, getting bumped backwards on a staircase makes Mario super accelerate to the bottom. And it's not like you can pull off a triple jump or anything noteworthy to skip using the stairs. You basically need to be bumped up the stairs to make it. I eventually made it into Peach's secret slide though, and everything was worth it. There's just something about blasting through tons of Goombas while heading down a slide that is amazing. We claim one of the stars here and move on to the next stage, Jolly Roger Bay. So before jumping into Jolly Roger Bay, I want to show you what defeating 3,000 Goombas at once looks like. It'll be a little taste of what to expect in Jolly Roger Bay, but it's absolutely incredible. When we load into the secret aquarium, the entire room fills with Goombas, and then every Goomba that is currently loaded on screen vaporizes. It sounds like someone microwaving 20 bags of popcorn simultaneously as the Goomba death noises spring up all over the place. And down below is a collection of thousands and thousands of coins, which is honestly just super cool looking. We can get the red coins here, but this is basically what we should expect come Jolly Roger Bay. With our star collected, we head into the next area. Jolly Roger Bay, of course, has turned into a golden lagoon. It's pretty slick swimming through the coins on our way down to the eel. Loading into the ship, though, means we're in a different map. So 3,000 Goombas appear within the ship alone, and they all turn to coins as we drain the water. And honestly, it looks like the ship just crashed, and the treasure within was thrown all about as it settles to the ocean floor. The only area where the Goombas survived is up top because they weren't within Mario's proximity when he first got down there, meaning they spawned after the water was drained. Heading to our next star, grabbing the eel's tail is about the same. We can snatch it up pretty easily. However, as you can imagine, the ocean cave for the next star is full of about 1,000 Goombas, since it's just a giant flat area. It makes dodging the falling rock pillars pretty interesting, and the Goombas also defend the chests too. But we can still get that star and move on to the red coin star. There isn't anything super special about this star since the boat is an object that's loaded into the map, so Goombas can't spawn on it through our method. Blast of the stone pillar had me a bit worried though because I was afraid I wouldn't be able to land on the platform with the box. I was able to get it though. I was feeling like a lazy lad and didn't feel like swimming through the jet stream, so we're pulling out this level with 5 stars. If I'm being honest, I don't think this type of challenge will warrant many unattainable stars, but there will be some problematic situations like what happened in Cool Cool Mountain. And speaking of Cool Cool Mountain, let's head on over with our 18 stars. I was really excited to try out the slide here, and it certainly was just as fun as I thought it'd be. However, at the first jump, you can skip off the heads of Goombas, which can be a bit problematic. We can make it all the way to the end just as normal though and grab our star. Little Penguin Lost is twice as annoying as ever. Goombas make you drop the penguin and also prevent you from grabbing the penguin if they are near. They are super helpful though when it comes to long falls. Normally, Mario will get stuck in the snow or take damage, but if you land on a Goomba, no damage will be taken. So we return the penguin, grab a star, and queue up for a big penguin race. So something interesting about the big penguin race is that Goombas can cause you to fail it. Not because they knock you off or anything, but because if you accidentally skip off of Goombas, you may skip over a reference checkpoint that the game uses to determine if you cheated or not. The first time I beat the penguin, he declared that I cheated, and that's when I realized what had happened. The Goombas stole victory from me, so the next race I basically had to slam on my brakes so I wouldn't go airborne. I then hit a turbo boost Mario's butt to the finish line since it caused me to fall behind. Thankfully the penguin has some rubber band AI, so I was able to do so. Frosty slide for 8 red coins went about as smoothly as you can imagine it would. Extra smooth. Just kidding, I ran into some hiccups. For one, you can't get back to the top of the level easily because the warp is broken, so you can't do an easy reset to get to the other parts of the mountain again. But while the Goombas made it more difficult, I was still able to get all the red coins and snag a star. Snowman Lost His Head definitely gave me some trouble though. Sometimes I would take damage at the start of the slide, and other times when I was trying to make my pass in front of the snowball, I'd get knocked back. Eventually, I was able to guide the head to the body though. After that, wall kicks will work with smooth sailing. It takes place beneath the level, so by the enemy spawn logic, no Goombas spawn down there. 24 stars for a name, and we're knocking on Bowser's door. Or at least trying to, but I keep getting mugged. I was so set on fighting Bowser with tons of Goombas that I honestly forgot to collect the red coins here. But when I got knocked off, I saw that the mystery Goomba had a few thousand friends on the death barrier. Making it up top wasn't too bad though, but Bowser's time to shine had arrived. Starting the fight, I knew I would have to clear out tons of Goombas to make this work. What I didn't anticipate was that getting burned and bouncing off of Goombas made the burn state last longer than usual. And actually, it could kill you in one go if you get unlucky. I knew I had to clear away Goombas so I could spin Bowser long enough to throw him. So Mario did quite a lot of slide kicks that day. But it seemed like more and more Goombas would jump into the fight, no matter how many I cleared out around Bowser. I botched my first throw, but after clearing out a lot more Goombas, I geared up for my second. I got hits early though, so the third time was the charm. I honestly didn't even know I defeated Bowser because a Goomba had hit me. It wasn't until I noticed his body that I realized I had won. So I scooped in my key, tallied up my coins while getting swarmed by a mob, then headed on out to Big Boo's haunt. Plowing my way through to the courtyard, I was super curious to see what it would be like. I mean, I knew it would be a Goomba hot mess, but given the size of the space, that meant all 3,000 Goombas had to be condensed here. And it was pretty gnarly if I must say so myself. We got Gooms in the bath, Gooms on the star, and about 200 Gooms protecting that darn bird cage. Luckily, I split the Red Sea and was able to make my way into the level, and I felt like I was thrown straight into a zombie movie. I had to hurry and lock myself inside the house because I knew it'd probably be safe. Reason being is how the Goomba spawning structure works for loading in Goombas. The building's roof would have priority for spawning because it's the highest walkable floor. And because the floor is as wide as the building, that means a Goomba-free house for the most part. I decided to go to eye in the secret room first, so I began hyperspeed wall kicking for 4 hours straight, until I eventually tore a rift in time and entered the room without the Vanish Cap. By that, I mean I ran straight by the star and went straight for Big Boo's balcony, which started off really simply. You kill Big Boo easily, but then getting on that roof is in my top 10 things I never want to do again. If you get bumped at all on the roof, Mario begins accelerating backwards exponentially until he's ejected from the roof. It's a castle lobby staircase all over again, except this time you can't even stand on the surface normally. And if you fall off, the crowd will carry you off to the edge of the map as you cry in agony. So I fell again, and again, and again, and again, 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 again. And then I finally got bumped backwards, which allowed me to climb on the roof by jump kicking and skipping off Goombas. With that, we finally got the star. But I'm never going on this roof again, man. One of the things I didn't anticipate being difficult was just how annoying entering the level was going to be each time. With this many Goombas coming in contact with the birdcage, the object doesn't function, so we have to wait and clear Goombas out until there are only a few. This is probably due to the cage reaching its max object interactions, similar to the door issue we had with the Bombs in Hazy Maze Cave in another video. We filled Hazy Maze Cave with thousands of bombs to create a never-ending super explosion, and it was incredible. Once we get back inside, we're going on a ghost hunt. Honestly, this star is relatively unchanged because the indoor areas lack Goombas due to the spawning logic. So we snag it, struggle to make our way back into the level, and then go downstairs to get our merry-go-round star. Secret of the Haunted Books and seek the 8 red coins are easy as well. We gain 5 stars here and close out the level with 29 total. Once we get Vanish Cap, we might pop back in to grab the last remaining star. Okay, let's head to the basement. I can already tell catching Mips down here is going to be insane, as I push my way through the hordes of Goombas swimming in the basement lagoon. We're off to Shifting Sand Land via Goomba Transportation Services, and I'm ready to experience a desert smothered in the Gooms. We're not going to mess around though, so we grab a shell ASAP and charge the horde head on. Shining atop the pyramid is ours to take, and we rinse and repeat. We snag our wing cap, skip the noise, and go straight for the big bird, adding another star to our collection. However, this is when I ran into an issue. So apparently, for some reason, loading these Goombas caused the entrance to the pyramid to just not work. The game would crash during the transition, and there wasn't anything that could be done. For some reason, the top entrance works though, so every time you want to go inside, you have to stand on top of the 4 pillars. Of course, when the game crashed, my recording somehow died too, so I ended up defeating iRock twice because I needed footage for it. No Goombas spawn during the fights because they priority load on top of the box room in the big interior section of the pyramid. Pyramid puzzle, as you can imagine, is a bit crowded. Making a way up and around the different parts of the pyramid to hit all the different areas is interesting, especially since some of the small standalone platforms have Goombas on them. We can certainly clear it, and heading for the 8 red coins isn't terrible since we can get airborne and use the shell. With this, we leave Shifting Sand Land with 6 more stars, bringing our total to 35. Next up, we have Hazy Maze Cave, but not until we pressure Toad into giving us his precious. For those who watched my video about basically nuking Hazy Maze Cave with 3,000 bombs, this section is largely similar, just with less impossible explosions. Hazy Maze Cave surely would not pass fire evacuation safety standards with this many Goombas though. After heading to the crater room, we snag Watch for Rolling Rocks with an impressive 84 A presses. I'm pretty sure that's a world record, but not for the best reasons. Honestly, every star here is basically slide kick and collect. As long as you clear some space for Mario, he should be able to knock out most stars with just some minor annoyances. Dory's Lake vaporizes a couple hundred Goombas when you approach it, which is neat, but while we're down here, we're going to go for the Metal Cap. The Metal Cap entrance is eerily empty, which is the complete opposite of what we're about to encounter once we jump in. Mario honestly sounds like a machine gun going off as he lays waste to hundreds of Goombas just by walking down a hallway. There's too many Goombas in fact that Mario reaches his contact limit and can't even kill all the ones he touches, because the game simply can't keep up. When he reaches the area with the river, it's flooded with gold coins. We have to hurry though because we do not want to be caught in this area without the Metal Cap. The Metal Cap lets us plow through enemies and not have to worry about hopping off their heads. If we don't have it, we're going to get cut up and thrown into the current. If we rely on the power of the Metal Cap, we can clear out the Goombas while also collecting the red coins here, nabbing us an additional star. Every star is obtainable in Hazy Maze Cave, and the Goombas don't even care about the toxic fumes. So we exit the stage with 43 total stars and head into Lethal Lava Land. Or we would have if it weren't for one showstopper of a problem. So there's an issue with Lethal Lava Land. It turns out if you try to spawn 3,000 Goombas over a pit of lava, that the game just breaks on load. So killing Goombas in water isn't an issue because it's instantaneous, but perhaps it's just because the lava has a more complex animation that goes with it? So yeah, we can't even get in. Luckily, Kaze was able to tweak the settings a bit so that no Goombas spawned in lava and that their deaths happened instantly. But the result is that every piece of walkable land that isn't an object is absolutely swarming with Goombas. Very quickly I realized that the pro strategy for navigating this abomination of a level was going to be getting burned and then hopping off the heads of Goombas. For some reason, it's extremely fluid, easy to navigate, and even though Mario is constantly burning, you don't take any more damage. So given this, you pretty much subject yourself to getting burned because your ability to move quickly and accurately is a huge win here. We can defeat the first bully easily while in the state, and the second bully set isn't a problem either. Just let the Goombas guide you to victory. I will say it was a bit annoying defeating these smaller bullies in the mosh pit, but it was doable. By the time you get to the last bully, everyone is pretty much dead. Hopping back in, Bowser's puzzle doesn't spawn Goombas on it, but they are capable of walking onto it, so the star is pretty much the same. When making your way over to Red Hot Log Rolling, you'll find that the log itself is Goomba free, but every area around it isn't. We can use Mario's Toasted Behind to gracefully get us to the star. And then the lobby happened. Picture this. You jump to go into Lethal Lava Land, but you take damage and get stuck in a falling state that you have no control over. Instead of going into Lethal Lava Land, the Goombas guide you through sacrifice all the way into Shifting Sand Land again. I have to say, that's a first. Rewinding a bit, with 4 stars collected so far, we make our way into the volcano. It's crazy because you spawn on a small island that has like 100 Goombas on it, and they all target you and immediately all turn to coins. Some break past the death barrier and start walking on the lava though. They are the true champions. Anyways, we burn our butt and land onto the checker platform, and you can literally see the wave of Goombas spawning in the distance. You pretty much want to jump pole to pole while making your way up, otherwise I imagine it'll get messy. Same goes for maximizing your pole jump to the star. Once we're back inside, we start climbing up the outskirts of the volcano, and we witnessed about 30 Goombas get pulverized by that random metal smasher, instantly converted into golden coins. This part is an insane waiting game because you need to touch solid ground to advance, so it's quicker to get yourself smashed so you can actually land. We wait around on this next platform and clear off all the Goombas because making the hops to these next platforms is going to be really rough. We want to long jump and skip off all their heads, but to do so in a way so we won't bonk our head when we make it across. Or at least, that's what we would do if we were a skilled player. Instead, we're just going to stroll across these platforms at grandma speed. Slow and steady wins the race, man. Now all that stands between us and the star is 500 Goombas and some poles. So with a few more well-placed hops, we clear Lethal Lava Land with 6 stars. Sliding into Dire Docks with 49 stars is like jumping into a giant fountain that people threw 1,000 coins in. the only living Goombas are on the very edges of the walls, and every other Goomba explodes into a coin before we hit the water. As more Goombas enter our range as we swim downwards, they spawn for a split second before being defeated as well. However, because of the way that Dire Docks is set up, the second part of the level features no Goombas at all. This is because the map area switches when we swim through that giant tunnel. So basically, this level is pretty much the same with or without Goombas. Well, almost. We grab the Bowser Substar, then chest in the current, through the jet stream, but for some reason the poles are gone. Not sure why, but perhaps the Goombas just broke them. So that star's a bust. But now would be a good time to go back to unlock Vanishing Cap. We make our way through the basement mob and ground pound the 2 pillars to drain the moat. With this, the Goombas don't die on load-in outside, but the Vanishing Cap level is a bit crazy. Getting through the first section while grabbing the red coins is a tad slow, but once we make our way to the platform section, things get easier. We have to land on solid ground though to make up for the larger sections, but unfortunately it's easy to get stuck in a crowd surf here until you die, since grabbing an edge almost always means taking damage. So I spent some time clearing Goombas so I could flip to the top section, and then I just sat in place and let the Goombas do the work. The platforms are objects that load in when the map does, so the only physical parts of the level at this part are the wooden posts. So this part is pretty normal until we get to the end. We backflip up, grab the last red coin, hit the switch, and collect our star. This allows us to collect the caps and Dire Docks, and then we snag the Manta Ray's reward before moving on with 55 total stars collected. Now that we have Vanishing Cap, we collect our 56th star in Big Boo's Haunt before heading to Bowser in the Fire Sea. But when we get to the second Bowser stage, we're in for a unique setup. So Goombas won't be spawning on lava immediately. However, this whole level is 3 floors that overlap each other. So the bottom floor is only going to get Goombas in areas where the above floor does not have them, since the highest floor always wins in terms of spawn conditions. The red coin area is decently packed, which makes grabbing it a bit odd though. While bouncing off of Goomba heads, we can reach out and snag it, without getting ourselves burned down below. Moving up, we don't see many Goombas on floor 2. It's a ghost town, but we do see coins and Goombas raining from above as we progress. At the end of floor 2, we run into another mob, and this gives us a taste of what to expect above. The first bend is overloaded with Goombas who want Mario's blood, and while making my way through the crowd, they got what they wanted because I got owned. Making my way up again, I died again. But the third time, I take the proper time to clear some of the mob. The darn slopes really suck when you get hit on them because of the backwards acceleration, but I end up making it up. After making it across the area where the lava recedes, I coast on some Goombas for a good while before going back for a red coin I missed. The sinking pole platforms are covered by Goombas on both sides though, so it makes navigating this part a bit tricky. Once all the coins are collected, I have to make it up top without getting knocked off, which actually ended up being a bit more tricky than I thought. Once up top, the Goombas started circling me perfectly without touching me at all. I felt like I was building up a supercharged Goomba attack. After clearing some out, I made it to the star. But good lord, I was not anticipating how ridiculous this next part was going to be. Because the exit to the level is the highest floor in the corner of the map, it was littered with Goombas. Essentially a clogged toilet that our Jolly Plumber has to resolve. There were too many Goombas to make it down to the area, and because of long jump I couldn't ground pound through them all. It didn't help that I got burned and couldn't land either. I basically had to wait them out until I could jump over to the center of the funnel. I thought I had it with a slide kick, but I ended up getting screwed hardcore as I bounced around inside the bowl for a hot minute. Eventually, and I do mean eventually, the bowl flushed and tons of Goombas and Mario fell through, warping me to the fight. Now I was really interested in this fight specifically because I knew Bowser rotated the stage when he jumped. And I have to say, seeing a Goomba avalanche was really cool. The momentum from the hit didn't register at first, but then all of a sudden all the Goombas started sliding around like crazy, and you could hear hundreds dying in the lava below. It was hard to actually deal with Bowser because of his warping ability, since the Goombas just messed up any and all movement. It wasn't long before his second jump happened, and I was swept up in the Goomba avalanche again. I knew if I was going to have a chance, I had to clear as many Goombas as I could so I could grab him. So I slide kicked like there was no tomorrow. I eventually got the throw I was looking for and defeated him. I did one final slide kick to ensure I'd be able to talk to him, and with that, I moved on to the third set of levels. 57 stars, and off to Wet Dry World. Well, as soon as we get up this curved staircase. One of the problems with Wet Dry World is that ideally we'd want to jump at the top of the painting, but the Goombas make it difficult, since bouncing off them only makes you jump up a set distance. We entered the level at a low water level, so only about half of the Goombas instantly died, but we'll try to snag top of the town first. Trying to make it up top in any capacity sucks, because getting hit just once makes you bounce all the way back to the water. Remember, using warps will crash the game too. tossing in some Hefos into the mix with Goombas, and you have a recipe for disaster. So I ended up re-entering the painting from up top so I could exterminate almost all the Goombas instantly. This made it a lot easier, but getting up top was still a pain in the butt because of the Chuckya. I grabbed the star up top, activated the cannon, and then made my way to the underground town area, which was completely devoid of all Goombas, just like the second half of Dire Dire Docks was. We grabbed Quick Race through downtown, then climbed back up top and long jump over to Shocking Arrow lifts. After clearing out the Goombas down below with water, stars like Secrets in the Shallows and Sky are basically the same. The red coin star is exactly the same, and so is Express Elevator Hurry Up. We grab all 6 and move on with 63 total stars. Onward to Tiny Huge Island. It's kinda weird seeing giant Goombas coupled with normal sized Goombas, but our Goomba spawn doesn't care whether the level is big or small, which honestly had me a bit worried about the small island. Anyways, I raced over to grab a shell so I can navigate the stage a little easier. I was going to head up to the top of the mountain first so I could get the star within the box. It took a bit longer than I had thought, but I eventually snatched up my first star from the stage. Next up was to pluck the piranha flowers. Of course, I brought a shell along for the ride, which made this whole ordeal super smooth. Star 2 in the bag. Gearing up to go up against Koopa the Quick, I pretty much thought I had no chance at all if the Goombas were on the map. I tried anyways, and it didn't go so well. The wind section made it too difficult because you can't attack without losing momentum and slowing yourself down. So I did a shell drive-by and cleared out the path before initiating the race. I had to play dirty, but with the map more clear, I was able to race Koopa the Quick and get the star. Now, the red coin star was very, very interesting. The game was absolutely chugging because Wiggler's fight takes place in a small circular room. So if I looked up at all while going for the red coins, all the Goombas will load in and make the game crawl. I was really looking forward to fighting Wiggler because of this. I got the red coin star and headed out to the small island for 5 itty bitty secrets. And as you can imagine, the entire island was consumed. It made it really hard to navigate without getting knocked off. You basically had to camp certain areas, jumping in the same place over and over until the mob thinned out. Luckily, since the Corkbox Bridge is spawned in, after collecting the secrets, we can cross that without issue and just jump into the crowd for the star. And now, it was time for Wiggler. So we struggled to the top of the mountain, cracked the rock with our mighty butt, and head off for the main event. When Mario falls into Wiggler's domain, it's like he disappears into a brown void. Wiggler claims we flooded his house, and he's right because there's about 3,000 Goombas squatting in his digs. This is by far one of the most highest concentrated Goomba areas in the game because there is very little death barrier spawning. All of them are up top, and it's absolutely insane to try to see where you're going. No matter where you go, you can't escape the flood. It's everywhere and all-consuming. You try to clear it away, but it only gets worse. To make the situation even better, you have to touch the ground after hitting Wiggler in order to talk to him. The fight won't advance until this happens, and it happens for every hit. And if you somehow get knocked airborne, you'll never feel the ground beneath your feet again. Mario will forever be stuck paralyzed while crowd surfing as he bounces off walls over and over again. Or so we think. Eventually, just as we stop thinking, time resumes and we're able to secure our second hit. With only one hit to go, we close the deal with a bop and a ground pound. We slide kick to our prize and get out of this cursed room with a classy 69 stars to our name. To Snowmans Land we go. This level is going to be fun. So right off the bat, we sprint over to the water area and spring ourselves over to snag Whirl from the freezing pond. Collecting the star for In the Deep Freeze was much easier than I thought it'd be. Not a whole lot of Goombas spawned up top, but it was just enough to cause it to be a bit annoying. Eventually, I got it though. Time to climb up the giant snowman. The moving snow ramp area was interesting because Goombas do respond to it. It wasn't too difficult to get past, and making my way up the narrow wooden paths wasn't bad either. Not many Goombas were present until we got to the ice bridge. It was a little nerve-wracking dealing with the Goombas while trying to stay behind the penguin. I made it up top only to get baited by a Goomba, which caused a chain reaction that led me to being blown off the mountain, of course. Making up top is actually super annoying because the Goombas will consistently knock you off. But with some luck, we can get the star for Snowman's big head. Jumping back inside, it's time to face off with the chill bully. He's got a few friends, but he goes down relatively easy. Going for the red coins is pretty simple with a shell. We destroy hundreds of Goombas on our quest for coins, but we grab it with ease. And now we head inside of the igloo, and hope this doesn't crash. Oh dear God, it's Wiggler's domain all over again. The igloo is filled to the brim with Goombas. I swear I killed like 200 Goombas with my first slide kick because the slick floors extend the life of the kick. About all you can do is destroy the horde and hope you don't get launched into the air. Like this. After sneaking around back, I eventually got to the Vanishing Cap. If you can't tell by my coin count, I killed a lot of Goombas. This number only reflects the coins I accidentally picked up too, so I probably killed 3 or 4 times that amount. Luckily, Vanishing Cap prevents us from taking damage, and we can run through the mob and collect our prize. We have 75 total stars, and now we're heading upstairs. So, yes, I'm aware we're skipping a level. For some reason, Tall Mountain would not load no matter what we tried or what we did to tweak the level. We don't know why, but unfortunately we have to skip that stage because the game can't handle it. So with 75 stars, we head up to the last remaining challenges in this run. So trying to make it into Tick-Tock Clock isn't fun. You have Goombas down below, preventing you from jumping high enough to reach the edge, and you have Goombas up top that will knock you down as soon as you grab the edge. It's definitely an infuriating combination. After enough flailing around, we eventually get up there. I was really curious to see how this level behaved because it has a lot of overlapping geometry. As you can tell by the Goomba divide at the start of the level, areas that have higher floors above them won't have Goombas down below. We stopped the clock on our way in, so we decided to knock out the red coin star quickly. And of course, collecting a star puts us back down below. So we have to make it up each time. Other than the starting area, a lot of the bottom sections of the clock lack Goombas. We do have to be careful for falling Goombas though. As we make our way midway up the clock, the Goombas do start to load in on bigger platforms. I dropped down from above to grab Get a Hand, and then after fighting to make it back inside the clock, I grabbed Roll into the cage from relatively the same area. Now we have to venture up higher in the level, which worried me because I knew it was going to get really Goomba heavy really fast. And I was right. Goombas consistently fell down from above and crowded the area with heave-hos. I carefully made it across to the Pit and Pendulum Star, and then after re-entering, I set my sights a little higher as I went for timed jumps on moving bars. By far though, I knew the star by the thwomp up top was going to be the worst. Given how this level is laid out, it was probably going to be flooded with Goombas. Honestly, this star was pretty slow going. It took me a half hour to collect it. There were so many Goombas in that area that my game started to chug pretty bad, and I ended up bonking my head and getting forced out of the area. I then just swept in and started purging hundreds and hundreds of Goombas from the level to make this area a little bit more bearable. I then realized this was going to take too long, and even if I did make it up, I would probably get knocked down by Goombas. So I restarted the clock and took the hand over to the conveyor belt for a much easier time. This made it a lot simpler to just ride the thwomp up as normal and grab our 81st star clearing the stage. Just for the heck of it, we still towed star despite not having grabbed the middle floor one, and then head on into Wing Mario Over the Rainbow. It was super rough getting in, and even the entrance was full of Goombas, which prevented me from teleporting right away. The level wasn't much better either, and we practically land on a brown cloud. Getting the red coins here will be rough, because triple jumping with the wing cap will be a lot more difficult. I accidentally get knocked near the edge, and a waterfall of Goombas carries me off into my first skydiving lesson without a parachute. Purging this cloud of Goombas at the start is actually fairly difficult, since it's easy to get knocked off or slide too far. But in order to proceed, it needs to be done. I die a few times, but I eventually get it. Mind you, there's about 450 Goombas on this cloud alone, so we grab our cap and float to the next overrun cloud. And we basically rinse and repeat. We land on a cloud and fight to the death over a red coin. Some places look super deceiving when they're far away, but I can assure you they are full of Goombas. I had to wipe out an entire army before I could activate the cannon. The dang clouds are like ice too when you get bumped on them. I was afraid I was going to get sniped in midair when approaching the cloud with the green poles because Goombas were raining off it, but I got lucky. I couldn't climb through the cloud because I'd just die, so I got in the cannon and grabbed the last coin I needed. And then I cleared the runway so I could make it down to the star. All of that was extremely tiresome. It made me dread going to Rainbow Ride if I'm being honest. But it's our last destination, so here we go. As I landed in Rainbow Ride, I knew the level was going to be full of fallen Goombas, and essentially every little platform was going to have them on it if it was part of the physical level. There's just so many cliffs at this stage that any mistake, even getting stuck in a backwards bounce, would spell death. The carpet sections were actually pretty worrisome since every jump essentially had Goombas there to mess you up. Luckily, the collapsing platforms are objects and can't load in Goombas, but the blue blocks could. I made it up to the pirate ship first, but then my worst nemesis reappeared, the wind. I struggled to get near the star, but it took a while since I had a new challenger every 0.2 seconds. I eventually got it, and then I went back to the grind. This time, I would head down below in the opposite direction. And the path was decently generous enough because every Goomba platform was spaced out with falling platforms that lacked Goombas. Swinging in the breeze was the first, and then I made my way back around to the tricky triangles area. The triangles don't have Goombas on them, but the platforms around them do. I got it on the first try though, so I wasn't banished to the Goomba pit. Time for another carpet ride up to the big house in the sky. Most of the glass block hurdles were easy to clear, but I still feared getting randomly hit by a fallen Goomba. After passing through the house and shaking off some unwanted guests, I slowly made my way up top. Goombas boarded my carpet at the very last second, right as I was approaching the star, and I thought I was going to fall. But I managed to get topside and grab it. Coins amassed in a maze was my next task, but luckily only the top and the bottom of the maze was flooded. This didn't make it easier getting into the maze, but the wall maze itself was pretty much clear of Goombas. I'm an idiot though, and collected the star without opening the cannon up, so I had to go back over there to make the last star obtainable. With this, we have one last, long carpet ride up to the ship before we blast off for the final star. Despite the floating island being full of Goombas, I grabbed the star pretty quickly and finished with a grand total of 89 stars. But now our final challenge awaited, Bowser in the Sky. So we climb the Goomba-covered staircase to the final stage, and I immediately start to really worry thinking about those map sections where Mario is practically running up a wall. The start of the stage is already brutal, since it eliminates your ability to triple jump right at the start. You basically have to jump from one platform to the next, and hop continually in place as you thin out the herd. And then my worst fear became a reality. Those blasted walls you run up were the worst thing ever. Taking damage at all caused Mario to accelerate super fast, taking him to the bottom or sending him to his death. You basically had to matrix dodge Goombas as you ran up, but it was insanely time consuming and tedious trying to make it up. And this was only the first one. I wanted to skip sections of this level entirely, but the red coins had other plans for me. Luckily, the collapsing staircase is considered an object, so Goombas didn't load on it. But right on top of this, we have another one of those blasted slopes. The struggle is real. Up and down, slide kick all around. Goombas making Swanky go a little cuckoo crazy. Will I ever make it up this slope? Nope. 7 years later, here we are. Our fourth red coin has been collected. I was a bit anxious about the aero lift section, but luckily the floor above it caused all the Goombas to spawn up there. After grabbing the sixth red coin, I had a heart attack as it started downpouring Goombas on me. What a way to go. After all those cursed hills too, I knew I shouldn't have climbed that pole. Finally, at the top of this stage, and the only thing that stood between me and Bowser, besides Goombas, were some Ferris wheels and some wind. The wind area being the most annoying part of the experience. I cleared off the first platform so it wouldn't get in my way, and then I prepared for tackling the more difficult part. Being airborne and bouncing off Goombas doesn't provide enough momentum to fight the wind, which is what makes this part a drag. Luckily, we can use our invincibility frames after repeatedly taking damage to get across this section though. We need to carefully transfer down to the lower platform to grab our last red coin. And then, after we make it up to the pipe and get our last star, it's time to face off with Bowser. And Bowser was not going to be fun. As to no one's surprise, it was bumper to bumper Goombas all across the board in Bowser's arena. Far worse than any other Bowser fight before. This fight was going to take forever because I had a couple thousand Goombas to kill before I even had a chance at hitting Bowser even once. And like a mad alchemist, we began transforming soft Goomba bodies into solid gold with the daftness of our slide kick. And we do this for like 5 minutes straight. I'm barely grabbing any coins, and yet my coin count is almost to 500. There's just that many Goombas dying on the stage. If you get burned by Bowser's fire, you might as well jump off a cliff, because Mario will die of old age before he gets to touch the ground again. So we slide kick like there's no tomorrow. We don't recover into a flip because we'll get stuck. We let the Goombas punch us back and forth. We hate it, but we love it. I press on, killing 5 Goombas for every 1 coin that I collect. Eventually, the mob has been reduced to a sensible amount after I get near 700 coins, and Bowser decides to sneak in a charge as I evade. He practically walked himself to the bomb, but I just slide punch into his tail instead of grabbing him unfortunately. With my cover blown, I go back to the Goomba Massacre. But it isn't long until Bowser charges me again, and this time I give him the explosion he deserves. However, after this point, he no longer takes the bait, and will happily wait me out with his shocking jumps. So I walk him to the edge myself and attempt to give him another burly throw into Explosion Land. At this point, I'm honestly a bit burned out of Goombas. I only have one more hit to go, and yet 1,000 Goombas still stand before me attempting to defend Bowser. I've never been good at Bowser throws at all, so I'm honestly surprised I managed to stick the third throw right away. My frustration turned immediately into satisfaction as a grand star bounced before me. And with that final star, Super Mario 64 has been beaten, with 126,000 Goombas standing in my way. But wait, we still have the credits! We still have to get our kiss from Peach while getting swarmed by Goombas. It's interesting because the Goombas still want Mario's blood, but he's invulnerable during the cutscene. I like how everyone just casually heads into the castle, despite it being completely full to the brim with Goombas. It's really cool seeing all the levels and the credits still littered with Goombas though. But I'm dead. Exhausted. I hope you enjoyed this bizarre adventure. I'm signing off, so cheers.